Donald Trump just wrapped up a disastrous press conference in the Oval Office. Here, he says that the United States is doing very well with Russia, and he says they're bombing the hell out of Ukraine, and Ukraine doesn't have the cards, and that's why the U.S. is doing well with Russia. It's horrifying. Here, play this clip.
Russia, if I may, President Putin is bombing Ukraine.
Yeah.
Do you still believe him when he tells you that he wants peace?
You know, I believe him. I believe him. I think we're doing very well with Russia. But right now they're bombing the hell out of Ukraine. And I'm finding it more difficult, frankly, to deal with Ukraine. And they don't have the cards. They don't have the.
Yeah, now it's just a bizarre scene in the White House as Donald Trump says that Putin is hitting Ukraine harder. He keeps on saying that, but he says that's how you know Putin wants peace. He's doing what he should be doing. He's hitting them harder, he says. Here, play this clip.
Peter?
It's a lot of soldiers on both sides, I agree. Do you, Mr. President, think that Vladimir Putin is taking advantage of the U.S. pause right now on intelligence and military aid to Ukraine?
No, I actually think he's doing what anybody else would do. I think he wants to get it stopped and settled, and I think he's hitting them harder than he's been hitting them. And I think probably anybody in that position would be doing that right now. He wants to get it ended, and I think Ukraine wants to get it ended, but I don't see it's crazy. They're taking tremendous punishment. I don't quite get it, but I suspect, Michael, he probably wants to get it ended.
He does, Mr. President. The Russians are taking incredible losses on the front. As the president has said, this is a meat grinder of people, of material, of national treasure, and no one else has any solutions except to let this war continue forever. But I'll add,
absolutely despicable. Here, the reporter asked Donald Trump, you said Russia is pounding Ukraine harder, so why not provide Ukraine with any air defenses? Watch Trump's response.
We're doing a good job. We're doing a good job.
Mr. President, in regards to the pause on military assistance to Ukraine, you put out on your social media post today that Russia is pounding Ukraine.
That's right.
Why not provide Ukraine with air defenses? And what happens, Mr. President, when Ukraine runs out of Patriot missile batteries?
Good question. Because I have to know that they want to settle. I don't know that they want to settle. If they don't want to settle, we're out of there because we want them to settle. And I'm doing it to stop death.
Donald Trump is then asked if he's concerned about the large-scale federal government layoffs weakening the labor market. And Donald Trump says, large-scale fentanyl? Huh? Here, play this clip.
Are you that the large-scale federal government layoffs will weaken the labor market? How concerned are you about
large-scale fentanyl what?
The federal government layoffs will impact the labor market, will weaken the labor market.
Oh. No, I think the labor market's going to be fantastic, but it's going to have high-paying manufacturing jobs as opposed to government jobs.
Donald Trump is asked how much longer Americans should expect things to cost more. And Trump says, look, there's some disturbances. There may be disturbances. That's what they're calling it. Here, play this clip.
Millions of Americans watched your joint address earlier this week where you warned that there could be a little disturbance that Americans could feel as a function of these taxes, these tariffs. How much disturbance are you willing to accept in the near term as a function of that? And to set expectations, how long should Americans expect things to cost a bit more?
Well, so far, Peter, there hasn't been very much because these numbers are coming out. We're here for just a little over 4 weeks. And these are fantastic numbers. I was watching some of the reports this morning. They were surprised. There could be some disturbance, a little bit of disturbance. I solved a little bit of that because I have respect for our auto companies. And I gave them a little bit of a 1-month reprieve because it was unfair, although I'm sure they'll take advantage of it. I see they're driving a lot of cars into the U.S. to try and avoid the tariffs, and they're taking advantage of it a little bit. But they called me, they asked me, they said, could they have a little bit?
Just so you see, also earlier in the day, one of the new phrases that we're hearing from the White House and the Trump administration is a detox, that we all need to experience a detox, which is kind of short-term pain, but it will be for long-term good. Here is Trump's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent using that term detox. Here, play this clip.
Could we be seeing that this economy that we inherited starting to roll a bit, sure. And look, there's going to be a natural adjustment as we move away from public spending to private spending. The market and the economy have just become hooked. We've become addicted to this government spending, and there's going to be a detox period. There's going to be a detox period.
Just so you see also how Fox is spinning this all before Trump's disastrous Oval Office appearance. Here's Maria Bartiromo calling what's about to happen Biden's recession. Let's play it.
That's, by the way, that's why I said earlier it would be Biden's recession. And I know the haters out there will slam me later. The other day I said something and they went nuts on me on Twitter, on X. I said, well.
Here Bartiromo is again talking about that. Let's play it.
You know, I mean, Joel, Lindsay Group came out with a report a couple of weeks ago that I've mentioned a few times. Can Doge induce a recession? No, it can't. Okay. You're not going to get a recession just from Doge. Now, there are other things that have happened in this economy with this slowdown. We could see a recession, but it's not going to happen just because they're cutting waste and abuse out of this government, Joel.
All right. Let's go back to the Oval Office for Donald Trump's disastrous press conference. He says, actually, things are fantastic. Labor markets are fantastic. Everything is great, he says, even though the jobs report was far lower than expectations. Let's play it.
President Trump with those remarks.
The federal government layoffs will impact the labor market, will weaken the labor market.
Oh. No, I think the labor market's going to be fantastic, but it's going to have high-paying manufacturing jobs as opposed to government jobs. We had too many people in government. You can't just do that. We had many, too many. This is for 40 years. You know, this isn't just now. This built up and got worse and worse, and they just hire more and more people. You look at Department of Education, it seems like so many buildings I ride by, it says Department of Education. They're all over the place. And we don't even want it. We want the education to be given by the states. It'll be much better. It'll be.
Then Donald Trump lies and says that the United States of America is in for $350 billion for Ukraine, and Europe only did $100 billion. Those numbers are just false. Europe's given more money than the United States to Ukraine, and it's easy to find out how much money the United States gave, which is like $150 billion. Still a lot of money, but Trump always uses the false numbers. I mean, you can literally see how much Congress appropriated by just looking at the numbers. Here, play this.
So we're in for $350 billion, and Europe is in for $100 billion. They should be in for the same or more than us. And, you know, I watched over the last week or so what's going on in Europe. This thing could end up in World War III if we don't get it settled.
Then Trump touts job gains for native-born Americans. Let's play it.
But under the first full month of President Trump, which we haven't even gotten started yet, an incredible 93% of all job gains were in the private sector. So that statistic just came out. Big gains for native-born Americans for the first time in 15 months. The job gains for native-born Americans, for American people born in America, exceeded job gains for migrant and foreign-born workers. This is the first time that's happened in more than 15 months. Employment for native-born workers went up by 284,000, while foreign-born workers went down by 87,000.
Right over here, Donald Trump talks about what we're really doing here is we're freeing up our forests from environmental nonsense. Here, play this clip.
But our numbers are a tiny fraction of that, almost non-existent. And what we're doing is freeing up our forests from the environmental nonsense that they put on them, where you can't cut down a tree. And we have to cut down trees in order to build the firewalls. And those trees are solved. But we're freeing it up on an emergency basis because Canada has been ripping us off for years on tariffs for lumber and for dairy products. 250%. Nobody ever talks about that. 250% tariff, which is taking advantage of our farmers. So that's not going to happen anymore.
Actually, Donald Trump is firing the federal workers who actually deal with forest cleanup in states like California and elsewhere. And also Donald Trump is directing like the Army Corps of Engineers to dump reservoirs into farmland, which basically is owned by Republicans in California, in kind of the central northern areas, not reaching Southern California where the fires are, because Trump wanted to say he turned on a faucet. Can't make this stuff up. And by the way, the Federal Army Corps engineer workers knew that they were going to flood the land of people having nothing to do with the fires, nowhere even close to where the fires were. And the fires had stopped at that point. Anyway, here's Brooke Rollins, the Secretary of Agriculture. She's the one in the clip that I showed you a few days back who said Americans should start buying chickens because there's no eggs. And that's the way to deal with the surge in egg prices. Every American needs to own a chicken. And here she says, look, folks, we're in a revolution. This is what we should all expect when you're in a revolution. You'll have to experience this detox and this pain. Play this clip.
As I'm going to the Hill, and part of my message has been, Charlie, when you're in a revolution and you are significantly reducing the size of government, nothing will be perfect. It will be imperfect. There will be mistakes made, but this sort of shaking up the whole system and almost restarting it in a way, there's not going to be another opportunity, I believe, perhaps in our lifetimes to do exactly what we're doing now.
The hell are they talking about? And here's Donald Trump speaking with Maria Bartiromo in a fuller interview that will air later, where she's like, can you just give us some clarity for the business community? Can you just maybe speak in a sentence? To which Donald Trump does not do that. Here, play this clip.
Can you give us a sense of whether or not we are going to get clarity for the business community?
Well, I think so. But, the tariffs could go up as time goes by, and they may go up. And, I don't know if it's predictability. I think
so. That's not clarity.
No, I think that they say that. It sounds good to say. But for years, the globalists, the big globalists, have been ripping off the United States. They've been taking money away from the United States. And all we're doing is getting some of it back.
And then finally, you have Trump's Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, again going on CNBC and saying, look, stock market's going down. Good thing. Good thing. People don't like good stock markets is what that's. If you're like, no way they're arguing that. Yeah, I will show you that that's the argument. Here, play this clip.
If we ever went down 20% on the NASDAQ or 15% on the S&P, with people that want Trump to fail, that's going to be splayed across every newspaper in the world. I'm just wondering whether the tolerance for something like that for the administration.
Well, look, as you said, Joe, market was up 20% last year, 20%
So there is
the year
some house money.
No. I'm going to put it another way.
Okay.
Did the Biden administration succeed? The American people weren't buying it just because the market was up. They voted out the Democrats.
Question related to the regulatory or deregulatory.